Brackett. Buckner Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie.
16.
Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill. Johnson. Keogh. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Vick. Work. Winder. Bayer. Bach. Cameron. Fulcher. Getty. Hill. Johnson. Keogh. Lacey. Lodge. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nuxel. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane.
Senator Johnson be recognized on the roll call. Roll call shows 23 present, 12 absent, excused. Senator Getty has an excused absent. Quorum being present, Senate will advance the second order of business. Prayer by Chaplain James Weberding and Pledge of Allegiance. We'd ask our friends in the gallery to rise and join us in prayer.
On this day, in 1863, President Lincoln signed the Act of Congress that carved out the Idaho Territory. It's interesting to note that that document set the governor's annual salary at a generous $2,500 and granted senators $4 per day for each of their days of attendance at the legislative session. More than the worth of a dollar has changed in 150 years. But what remains unchanged is that it is still a blessing to live in Idaho. So I invite you to join me in a prayer of gratitude as we begin. Almighty God, as we mark 150 years of Idaho, we acknowledge that this beautiful land was here long before our government came into being. Nonetheless, we are proud to be the keepers of this exquisite creation. We are grateful to you for the gift that we call Idaho. And I recognize that every contour of this great land speaks of its creator. From the power of Shoshone Falls, to the vastness of the canyons, to the beauty of Caribou National Forest, to the permanence of the sawtooths, to the vibrancy of the Panhandle, I see echoes of your greatness. On this day of celebration, the Senate pauses to say thank you for the gift that we call Idaho, and also to say thank you that we have the privilege to call it home. Please continue to bless our state. In your mighty name I pray. Amen.
Now be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by our page, Melissa Smeckel. Melissa.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Prior to advancing, Senator Stinnett and Senator Schmidt and Senator Thane will be recognized present at this order of business. Senate advance third order of business, and Senator Keogh. Senate advance third order of business, reading corrections journal.
March 4th, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that the Senate Journal of the proceedings of March 1st, 2013 was read and approved as corrected. Lodge Chairman.
The report will be filed in the office of Secretary. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the fifth order of business.
Without objection, Senate advance fifth order of business, petitions, resolutions, memorial senates at the fifth order of business.
Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to Senator Goody so called chair.
Without objection, Senator Beatty. Senate will come to order. Senate's at the fifth order of business. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all petitions, resolutions, and memorials be read by number, author, and title only, and the journal show they've been read at length.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
In the Senate, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 120 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, a concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and commending the Boise School District for its 2013 Read-Write Award of Excellence, its continuing commitment to the Read-Write program, and its focus on the success of Boise students.
Senator Baer and Senator Nuxel will be marked as present at this order of business. Senate Concurrent Resolution 120 will be referred to the Judiciary and Rules Committee for printing.
There is no further business in the fifth order, Mr. President.
Senate advanced sixth order of business reports to Standing Committee. Senate's at the sixth order of business.
March 1st, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that enrolled Senate Bill 1016 and Senate Bill 1017 were delivered to the Office of the Governor at 11:53 a.m. March 1st, 2013. Lodge Chairman.
Report will be filed in the Office of Secretary. Senator McKenzie will be recorded present at this order of business.
March 1st, 2013, the Transportation Committee reports out Senate Bill 1064 and Senate Bill 1117 and recommend that they do pass. Bracket Chairman.
Senate Bills 1064 and 1117 will refer to the 12th order of business, second reading.
March 1st, 2013, the Finance Committee reports out House Bill 210, Senate Bill 1128, 1129, 1130, 1131, and Senate Bill 1132 and recommend that they do pass. Cameron Chairman.
Senator Bach will be recorded present at this order of business. House Bills 210, Senate Bill 1128, 1129, 1130, 1131, and 1132 will all be referred to the 12th order of business, second reading.
There is no further business in the sixth order, Mr. President.
Senator Lodge will be recorded present at this order of business. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the eighth order of business.
Without objection, Senate advance the eighth order of business. Messages from the Governor. Senate's at the eighth order.
March 1st, 2013, the Honorable Brad Little, President of the Senate. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to advise you that I have signed today and am transmitting to the Secretary of State the following Senate bills to wit: Senate Bill 1010, 1076, and 1077. As always, Idaho, C.L. Butch Otter, Governor of Idaho.
The report will be filed in the office of the Secretary.
There is no further business in the eighth order, Mr. President.
Advance the ninth order of business. Messages from the House. Senate's at the ninth order of business.
March 1st, 2013. Mr. President, I transmit herewith enrolled House Bill 72 for the signature of the President. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
The President has signed House Bill number 72, and it will be returned to the House.
There is no further business in the ninth order, Mr.
Mr. President,
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the 11th order of business.
Without objection, Senate advance the 11th order of business. Introduction, first reading of bills. Senate's at the 11th order of business.
Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be read by number, author, and title only, and the journal show they've been read at length.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Senator Sidaway will be marked present at this order of business.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1134 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to aeronautics to establish provisions relating to restrictions on the use of unmanned aircraft systems. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1135 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, an act relating to grounds for medical discipline by the State Board of Medicine. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1136 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, an act relating to uniform controlled substance to revise a listing of synthetic drugs. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1137 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, an act relating to garnishments to revise provisions relating to service of writ of attachment, execution, or garnishment. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1138 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to the Local Planning Act to provide that overlay zoning districts have specific standards, to provide a correct code reference, and to make a technical correction.
Senate bills 1134, 1135, 1136, 1137, 1138 will all be referred to the Judiciary and Rules Committee for printing.
There is no further business in the 11th order, Mr. President.
Senate advance the 12th order of business, second reading of bills. Senate's at the 12th order of business. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on second reading be read by number and author, and the journal show they've been read at length.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 1112 by Agricultural Affairs Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 203 by Appropriations Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1041 by Commerce and Human Resources Committee.
House Bill 112 and House Bill 203 and Senate Bill 1041 will all be referred to the third reading calendar, 13th order of business.
There is no further business in the 12th order, Mr. President.
President, I ask
Senator
unanimous
Davis.
consent Senate return to the sixth order of business.
Out. Objection. Senate return to the sixth order of business. Report to Standing Committee. Senate's at the sixth order of business.
March 4th, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1138 has been correctly printed. Lodge Chairman.
Senate Bill 1138 referred to the 12th order of business. Referred to State Affairs Committee.
Unanimous consent, Senate Godis.
Without objection, Senate BD. I never did see the assignment sheet.
The letter note that I got told me to send it to State Affairs.
Okay. It was, well, of course, it had to be printed State Affairs.
Senators, I'd like to just make an introduction while we're at ease for a moment. I'd like to introduce my wife, Judy. She's in the gallery. She comes so seldomly that I try and take and catch her every time she comes, just so that you can meet her. Judy, if you would please stand, and Senators, if we could give her a welcome to the Senate.
Senate will come to order. Senate's sixth order of business. The President is going to sign Senate Bill 1138 to the Local Government Committee.
There is no further business in the 6th order, Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the 10th order of business.
Without objection, Senate advance 10th order of business. Motion to resolution. Senate's at the 10th order of business. And has, for final consideration, House Concurrent Resolution number 5. The Secretary will read the resolution.
In the House of Representatives, House Concurrent Resolution number 5 by State Affairs Committee, a concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and commemorating the Idaho Territorial Sesquicentennial and providing that the Legislative Auditorium be named the Abraham Lincoln Auditorium. Be it
Mr.
resolved.
President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of HCR 5 be dispensed with, and the Journal show has been read at length.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of HCR 5.
Senator Stinnett.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded the Senate adopt House Concurrent Resolution Number 5. Senator Davis recognized open debate on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, 150 years ago this morning, President Abraham Lincoln signed into law the U.S. Senate's amendment of a House bill which created Idaho as a territory. Idaho was born out of political conflict, slavery, political disputes concerning Washington Territory's eastern boundary. President Abraham Lincoln hoped that the creation of the Idaho Territory would serve as a further hedge against the spread of slavery and provide its ultimate abolition. Historically, there is plenty of folklore concerning how Idaho's name was created and selected. According to the Idaho State Historical Society and Professor Wells' research, Idaho can have confidence in at least the following. In the early 1960s, what we call Colorado was ready to become a territory. Colorado needed a name. A leader in the area thought up the name Idaho. He told others it meant gem of the mountains. Well, the Colorado people were looking for a name for their soon-to-be designated territory, and they were looking for an Indian word to use. Well, he liked his word so much, he told them Idaho was an Indian word. It wasn't. He made it up. It was decided by the people that the Colorado Territory would be called Idaho. As an aside, some of his friends liked the made-up name so much that their new steamboat they named Idaho. It did ultimately bring miners to the Clearwater. Well, Colorado leaders asked Congress to use the name Idaho as Colorado's territorial name. However, just before congressional action, people found out that Idaho was not an Indian word at all. And since no one could find an acceptable Indian name, they asked the name to be changed back to Colorado after the Colorado River, Rio Colorado, meaning the color red. By then, several mining camps, and subsequent to that in Idaho, were being called Idaho. Now it was Idaho's turn for Congress to create a territory. Well, the U.S. Senate's attention was on the Civil War, as it should be. And after much effort, the Senate's attention was turned to our Territorial Act. Well, a legislative dispute had existed regarding the boundaries and the territorial name. The initial name selected, Montana. On the final evening of the final session of Congress in 1863, the Idaho Territorial Bill came up for consideration. By amendment, the boundaries were fixed and the name Idaho was restored to the bill. The amended bill passed the Senate and was returned to the House. Now the House had a choice: concur or refuse to concur in Senate amendments. You know I wanted to say something there. A House member wanted a conference committee but there was no time for such a late request on this last night of the session. The request was voted down. The House passed the Senate version of the bill on March 3rd, 1863. Early the next morning, President Abraham Lincoln, in our United States Capitol, signed the Idaho Organic Act into law. In anticipation of today's debate, I pulled out and read that Organic Act. Idaho was now a territory, and Idaho was its name. As had been anticipated, Idaho's gold and silver helped the North win the Civil War. President Lincoln appointed William Wallace as the first territorial governor. He served for less than a year before becoming the delegate to Congress. From 1863 until statehood in 1890, and remember, we became a state on July the 3rd, 1890, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my wife tells it to me, so it must be. We became a state not on July the 4th, but on the 3rd, so that our star on the flag would not have to wait an additional year. Well, from that time period of 63 to 90, we had multiple governors. To the senator from 6, I might add that the capital was lawfully moved from Lewiston to Boise.
Objection, Mr. President.
The then governor, Caleb Lyon, fled the territory to avoid a lawsuit brought by angry Lewiston citizens. I understand that there still exists a modest legacy of those troubled feelings. We even experienced a time during our territorial years where we were without a governor. Governor Smith was, during his service and after his arrival, drank himself to death within 7 months. Governor Gilson stayed long enough to steal the entire state treasury, totaling more than $41,000. Governor Lyon was then reappointed, only to be dismissed quickly thereafter for stealing more than $43,000 from the Idaho Department of Indian Funds, if I recall correct. Well, Idaho's creation and early days were rocky, but a wonderful territory and then state was created. A beautiful state, great resources, and remarkable people. And Pastor, thank you so much today for your very timely and thoughtful prayer. Idaho's creation was at a time of national struggle for individual liberty, freedom, and rights, and its current citizens struggle to continue these treasured values. Abraham Lincoln is a symbol of that struggle. His role is significant in Idaho's name, creation, organization, and legacy, including the Homestead Act, the Transcontinental Railroad, and the Morrill Act, which created our land-grant colleges throughout the nation, including the University of Idaho. Because of those contributions, the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Commission helped to cause the relocation of the oldest Lincoln statue in the West to its current location. Idaho made this choice to remind Idaho of Lincoln and his contributions to our territory and state. I was honored to represent the Idaho Senate on that commission. But today, you have a similar opportunity. By the adoption of HCR 5, you can choose to further honor President Lincoln and remind Idaho of his contributions. The last resolution of the HCR provides, and I quote, "The legislative auditorium in the west wing of the state capitol building be named and forever known as the Abraham Lincoln Auditorium." Presumptively, but at your consent, former Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General David Leroy and his wife Nancy will donate the Wanamaker portrait of President Abraham Lincoln for permanent display as part of the Lincoln Auditorium. It is an 1863 chromolithograph portrait, and it is in its original frame. It is a generous gift. Our thanks go to the Leroys. I urge your affirmative consideration. Mr. President, debate is open.
For the debate, Senator Hill and Senator Cameron will be recognized. President, 10th order of business. Further debate. Senator Vick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do get some, I don't know if grief is the appropriate word, but for having a political career in 2 different states. But I think it's important to note that I was not the first person to do that. The very first governor of Idaho, of the territory of Idaho, was also the very first governor of the territory of Montana once they were divided. So there's a very long history there. Thank you.
For the debate, Senator Durst.
Mr. President, just a very quick comment. I was very much appreciative of getting this pin today and realizing that we were getting a pin today and not one of those little bow ties that I see on the last centennial picture downstairs. This is much preferable, and I appreciate the leadership of our state in making sure we're wearing this instead of those bow ties.
For the debate, Senator Davis recognized. Closed debate.
Well, Mr. President, good senators, today is a day of celebration. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, the House concurrent resolution number 5 passed the Senate. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. And the House concurrent resolution number 5 has passed the Senate. The correction title, hearing none. House concurrent resolution number 5 will be returned to the House. Senator Davis.
Personal privilege.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, senators. Just a kind of a roadmap here on where we're headed. We have completed our work. It is our intent now to go to the third reading calendar, 13th order of business, and do the work that is there. We need to have a hard stop time at about 11:15. You have been provided and have on your desk some important things to consider. First of all, you have this very nice sesquicentennial Idaho landscapes that is for you to keep. Additionally, has been mentioned by the senator from 18. You have a sesquicentennial pin that is obviously yours, but additionally, a news article that appeared shortly after the creation of the territory of Idaho, as well as some other items. I want you to first be aware of this little handout here, and it's I think everybody has it the same way I have it, 2 pages stapled together. We really should have our pro tem walk you through what this says, but we intend to be outside at about 11:30. From 11:15 to 11:30, we need to give you some time to get your coats and take care of whatever other business you may need to. We will then gather on the second floor on the inside, and you'll see where hopefully you will see each other and get together for a processional march as part of the celebration onto the steps of the Capitol, very similar to how we have done it in some prior gubernatorial inaugurations. And you'll see on here where we are supposed to sit and be aware of that. Additionally, you'll see the time frame that says we need to be walking out at 11:30. It is on television. KTVB is broadcasting it. It's my understanding that it is also being fed throughout the state. Additionally, you have on your desk the actual ceremony and the program so that you are aware of what we will be doing. It is anticipated that this will consume it is my understanding that we will have a hard adjournment time on that event at 1 o'clock so that you can plan the rest of your remaining lunch time and get ready for your committee work. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to send advance to the 13th order of business.
Objection, send advance to 13th order of business. Third reading of bill. Senate's at the 13th order of business has for final consideration Senate Bill 1018 is amended. The Secretary will read the bill.
Mr. President.
Senator Lakey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 1018 as amended be moved to the 14th order for further amendment. May I explain?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just would like to make another effort to see if I can get some consensus on this. I think we're close, so it should be back soon.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1018 as amended will be referred to the 14th order of business for amendment. Now, Senate now has for final consideration Senator Winder.
Mr. President, are you taking up Senate Bill 1097 as amended?
Well, I'm waiting for a unanimous consent request from you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 1097 as amended hold its place on the calendar. May I explain?
You may.
The floor sponsors currently off the floor.
Okay, let's try Senate Bill 1091 as amended. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1091 as amended by Education Committee, an act relating to education to establish provisions relating to an online course portal.
Mr. President.
Senator Durst.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of Senate Bill 1091 be dispensed with, and the journal show that it had been read section by section and is probably for the committee for the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Durst is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, given time constraint, I'll be as brief as I can and provide enough information for you to make an informed decision on this legislation. Senate Bill 1091 is another piece of legislation from the duo of Senator from District 8 and Senator from District 18. This legislation is related to early completers for high school and how we might be able to assist students that do want to do some sort of early completion for dual enrollment or some sort of program thereof. Talk you through the bill really quick, and the first couple sections, and I'll yield the time to the Senator from 8 to finish up. The first section is intended to just create the statutory authority for paying for some of these programs we're talking about. And the second section is the one with the biggest change from a substantive change standpoint for the Idaho Digital Learning Academy. As all of us know, IDLA is a major online provider for education in the state of Idaho. It's done great things for students in Idaho, throughout Idaho, in the rural parts of the state, and even in the urban parts of the state. We were approached by IDLA looking for a more stable funding source, and so they were on a kind of a three-legged stool before. It wasn't really working in the way they wanted it to, and so working with the State Department of Education and IDLA, we rewrote the formula just so you get a better feel. Part of the formula, which you'll find in Section 1 of that subsection, or Section 2, Sub 1, is what we'll call the base amount. That's the real fixed cost that IDLA has to be able to operate. You know, whether they offer 10 classes or 10,000 classes, there are some fixed costs associated with doing that, and so that section pays for that. We'll fund that part of it. And you'll note the Section 2 was eliminated and replaced with only Section 3. And so those two variable payment sections were combined. And one of the key pieces was being able to make it more scalable. So that way, we've seen in the past where IDLA's had to cap enrollment, or they have felt like they haven't had the revenue necessary to be able to continue to pay for more students. What this does is make their funding for the variable piece dependent upon their enrollments. And I think that's beneficial for them, and it's beneficial for Idaho students, because that way they're not stuck with some sort of choke point where they can't go past. If they get more students, they get more money. The dollars follow those students, and I think that's a positive step for Idaho. With that, I'll yield to the Senator from District 8 to explain the remaining part of the bill.
Senator Thane is recognized to continue opening debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator from 18. I'd like to make a couple of comments on the fiscal note and IDLA funding. And since we're on the IDLA funding, I'd like to point out if this bill doesn't pass, the statutory requirement is closer to $9 million, and the total fiscal note for this bill is closer to $6.4 million for IDLA. And so even though this is a reduction to IDLA, they're fine with it because the funding formula is variable and probably will fit them better as years to come. But if you look at the fiscal note, Section 2, which is the part we're talking about, is for $6.4 million. Section 3 has to do with an online portal, and that's for ongoing $150,000, which was, this was something that was seen under the Students Come First bills, but is also something that the Idaho Education Association thought was a good idea, and so we provided legislative authority for this in Section 3. Section 4 reinstitutes the dual credit for early completers, even though under the defeated propositions this was taken out. I remember listening to Brian Cronin when he was being interviewed in opposition to the propositions, that he thought this is one thing that should stay in, and there's been a lot of support for this program. So basically the language has been brought back into Section 4. Section 5 has to do with some changes in the 8 and 6 program, which some of you might remember or not, but that has to do with paying for online summer classes. And because some of the underlying bills were that had the definition for an online class were defeated this fall, we need to put the definition back in there. And if I scroll down to the right place in the bill, there's one other change which it's on the last page. It has to do with having the counselors, when they sign up a student for online classes, that even though they have the ability to sign up for those classes without the permission of the school district, we did want the counselors to look at that and assist them to make sure they were taking classes that would help them toward graduation. So it's a little bit of a check and balance on one another, even though they have that right. And I believe with that, Mr. President, the debate is open.
For the debate on Senate Bill 1091 is amended. Hearing no further debate, Senator Durst is recognized to commence closing debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so Senate Bill 1091 is amended, passed. Senate Secretary will call the roll.
Bayer, Bach, Brackett, Buckner-Webb, Cameron, Davis, Durst, Fulcher, Getty, Guthrie, Hagedorn, Hyder, Hill, Johnson, Keogh, Lacey, Lakey, Lodge, Martin, McKenzie, Mortimer, Nonini, Nuxel, Patrick, Pierce, Rice, Schmidt, Sidaway, Stennett, Thane, Tippett, Vick, Work, Winder, Bach, Cameron, Getty,
Roll call shows 34 ayes, no nays, one absent, excused. Majority have voted in the affirmative. Senate Bill 1091 is amended, is passed the Senate. The corrections title, hearing none, title is approved. And Senate Bill 1091 is amended, will be transmitted to the House. Senate now has for final consideration. Senate Bill 1057 is amended. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1057 as amended by Education Committee, an act relating to education to establish provisions relating to a district utilizing a portion of instructional staff allowance for visits between the kindergarten teacher and the parents or guardians.
Mr. President.
Senator Thane.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill, 1057, I believe, yes. As amended, be dispensed with, and the journal show that's been read the third time at length and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objections, Senator Thane is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members of the Senate, we had this on the bill on the Senate floor a week or two ago. This has to do with kindergarten teachers being able to make visits with parents during that first week of school. Just to remind you what we have in mind with this bill, it's not mandated. It's something that's permissive, but the reason to have the bill is so that they can receive some payment if they do that. The thinking is that there's a greater return on our investment if there's a strong relationship forged in partnership between the parents and the teachers, and that the kindergarten year can actually be used more efficiently if there's some time spent doing this. There's no known opposition. In fact, there's quite a bit of support when I have talked to people about this concept. For your information, kindergarten requires 450 hours per year, and this bill does not jeopardize this 450-hour limit. And with that, Mr. President, the debate is open.
Further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Thane is recognized to close debate.
Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so Senate Bill 1057 is amended, past the Senate. Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Bayer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron.
Senator Cameron.
Mr. President, may I have 60 seconds?
You
to
have
explain
60
my vote?
seconds.
Mr. President, I certainly recognize the good senator's intent on this. My concern is that this will take away from current parent-teacher conferences, and it will take away from the opportunity for parents to come in and see the teachers rather than having them go out to see their parents home. I also see that there could be potential issues where some parents may be in difficult situations, and having a teacher come into their home may not be the appropriate public policy stance that we want to take. So I will be voting no.
Senator Cameron will be recorded as voting no.
Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill. Johnson.
Senator Johnson.
60 seconds.
60 seconds, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I share the same concerns as the good senator from District 27, although I like the idea, and it's something that I practiced raising my children. I had one child go through Head Start. Home visits were a good thing, but I have some concerns about this and really the need for it and how it's going to compete with other classroom time. So I will vote against the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Johnson will be recorded as voting no.
Keogh. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer.
Mr. President, 60 seconds.
You have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe strongly that this is a good thing to do. I believe it starts the student and the teacher and their parents off on the right step. And if I had my way, I would give that teacher 2 weeks to do it instead of 1. Thank you. The senator will be voting aye.
Senator Mortimer will be recorded as voting aye.
Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Vick. Work. Winder. Bach. Buckner-Webb.
60 seconds, please, Mr. President.
60 seconds, Senator.
I had some similar questions about this bill, but I was comforted by the fact that it is optional. They get to decide in the school system whether that happens or not in the school district. The opportunity is to meet at the children's home or wherever the teacher and parent decide is best for them, and to give an opportunity to start the school system, to start the student and the teacher and the parent on an even playing field to kind of talk about expectations is very positive for me. Thanks. I'll be voting yes.
Senator Buckner-Webb will be recorded as voting aye.
Davis. Getty. Guthrie. Hill. Lodge. Race. Schmidt. Work.
Roll call shows 29 ayes, 5 nays, 1 absent. Excused. Majority haven't voted affirmative. Senate Bill 1057 is amended, is passed the Senate. The corrections title. Hearing none, the title is approved. And Senate Bill 1057 is amended, will be transmitted to the House. Senate now has for final consideration. House Bill 66 is amended in the Senate. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 66, as amended in the Senate by Transportation and Defense Committee, an act relating to the Rural Economic Development and Integrated Freight Transportation Program.
Mr. President.
Senator Keogh.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the bill be dispensed with, and the journal show it's been read section by section, third time at length, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Keogh is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators, for your consideration. In House Bill 66 is really some technical cleanup in this section of code. The Department of Agriculture manages the Rural Economic Development and Integrated Freight Transportation Program. It's basically a revolving loan fund with a small grant component. An interagency working group advises the department and includes appointees from the Idaho Transportation Department, Idaho State Department of Agriculture, and Idaho Department of Commerce. The program was established by the Idaho legislature several years ago and transferred to the Department of Agriculture in 2007. At that time, the Department of Agriculture was inserted in various places throughout the statute. The current statute requires that the Idaho Transportation Department provide information to the interagency working group to assist the Department of Agriculture in monitoring the state's railroads. The Department of Agriculture does not monitor the state's mainline, short line, or branch line common carrier railroads. Rather, that is expertise within the Idaho Transportation Department. This was a drafting oversight when the transfer was made. House Bill 66 will remove the Department of Agriculture from monitoring the state's railroads and will maintain the role of the Transportation Department in providing information related to the state's railroads in the interagency working group. And the minor amendment that was placed on the bill is in the same vein. It was another technical error that was caught as the program was switched between departments. And with that, debate is open.
Further debate on House Bill 66 as amended in the Senate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Keogh is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so House Bill 66 is amended in the Senate, pass the Senate. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent the roll call vote used for the passage of Senate Bill 1091 as amended be now used for the passage of House Bill 66 as amended in the Senate.
Hearing no objection, roll call shows 34 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Excused. Majority haven't voted affirmative. House Bill 66 amended in the Senate, passed the Senate. The correction title. Hearing none, the title is approved. House Bill 66 amended in the Senate will be returned to the House.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 10 hold its place on the calendar for one legislative day. May I explain?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, you may recall that last week while we were debating this bill, some questions arose. Efforts have been made to get the answers to those questions, but there still needs to be additional work done. It is, however, our intention to pick up the legislation tomorrow.
Hearing no objection, House Bill 10 will hold its place on the calendar. The Senate now has for final consideration House Bill 137. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 137 by Local Government Committee, an act relating to urban renewal law, to remove language relating to certain urban renewal agency powers and to make technical corrections.
Mr. President.
Senator Vick.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 137 be dispensed with and that the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Vick is recognized to open debate.
House Bill 137 helps preserve our private property rights. What this bill does is it strikes the language that allows an urban renewal district to enter property without due process. To my knowledge, has been no objection to this bill, no opposition. Also, I have talked to representatives of two of the largest urban renewal districts in Idaho, and they have expressed personally to me no opposition. I think the reason that this language was originally included in the bill is it was 1960s model legislation, and I don't believe that it has ever been used. So it's kind of a cleanup language, and with that I'd ask for your support. Debate is open.
For the debate, Senator Lakey.
Mr. President, just for a disclosure.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just under Rule 39, I would like to disclose that my law firm does represent two urban renewal districts, but those districts are not impacted any differently than any other district due to this legislation.
That will be so recorded in the journal. Further debate. Senator Nonini.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I'll be supporting this bill, but I don't think it goes far enough. If you look at the text on page 1 where the stricken language is, I wish this bill would go a little bit further and strike out the eminent domain. We've tried that in the past. We weren't successful. I guess this is the best we can do. I hope we continue to look at these issues because I think there's abuse out there by these agencies. I can specifically speak for northern Idaho, where I hail from in this regard, but I will be supporting the legislation that's before us this morning.
For the debate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Vick is recognized. Closed debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, House Bill 137 passed the Senate. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent the roll call vote used for the passage of Senate Bill 1091 as amended be now used for the passage of House Bill 137.
Hearing no objection, roll call shows 34 ayes, no nays, one absent. Excused. Majority haven't voted in the affirmative. House Bill 137 is passed. Senate. Their corrections. Title. Hearing none. Title is approved. And House Bill 137 will be returned to the House. Senate now is for final consideration. House Bill 93. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 93 by Resources and Conservation Committee, an act relating to forest and range fires, to provide for nonprofit rangeland fire protection association.
Mr. President.
Senator Brackett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 93 be dispensed with, and the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Brackett is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, House Bill 93 clarifies the process for forming rangeland fire protective associations. The idea came out of the Sage Grouse Task Force last summer and is patterned after the forestry protective associations. This bill amends Chapter 1 of Title 38 Idaho Code by adding a new section, 38104B. Paragraph 1 defines nonprofit rangeland fire protection associations. Paragraph 2 outlines conditions and steps to organize and operate a rangeland fire protective association, such as the legal status and the requirement for liability insurance. Paragraph 3 outlines what the director will be reviewing prior to the formation and annually thereafter. This bill encourages and facilitates landowners and local residents to provide initial response after the BLM arrives, and if the association members want to continue to work alongside BLM firefighters, they can do so under BLM supervision. Ranchers and landowners have tried to assist in fire suppression in the past, but have been discouraged because of liability and coordination concerns. One group has already been formed at Mountain Home, and at least 4 other groups are receiving training from BLM personnel and are in the process of formation. This should help fill some of the gaps in initial response and fire suppression all across southern Idaho. It also marks a new beginning in cooperation and coordination between landowners and local residents. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
For the debate, Senator Keogh.
Mr. President, debate in favor of the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support this piece of legislation and realize and recognize its significance to the southern portion of the state. And I am very familiar with the model that it's based on with the forest land protection associations and the fire preparedness effort that occurs. My hope is as these associations get established, that with the leadership of the Department of Lands, that they will look at doing a similar self-assessment that the forest landowners do. Currently, the forest landowners pay 60 cents per acre, and if there's a structure on that acre, it's $40. So in the long term, I think this is a really important piece of our fire effort, our fire management and fire preparedness effort here in the state, and I'm encouraged by and support it as well, and look forward to taking a look in the next year or two in how it can be self-supporting financially as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
For the debate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Brack is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks to the good senator from from 1. I would add to her comments or respond real briefly that initially, at least, the contribution will be in kind and in labor, and they're also making a financial contribution to members that are active. So hopefully that will preclude the need for an assessment. With that, Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so House Bill 93 passed the Senate. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask unanimous consent the roll call vote used for the passage. Senate Bill 1091 as amended be now used for the passage of House Bill House Bill 93.
Hearing no objection, roll call shows 34 ayes, no nays, 1 absent, excused, majority have voted in the affirmative. House Bill 93 is passed. Senate, the correction. The title, hearing none, the title is approved. House Bill 93 will be returned to the House. Senate now is for final consideration. House Bill 128. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 128 by Resources and Conservation Committee, an act relating to water to provide that liens by operating companies may not bind any land for a longer period.
Senator Hyder.
And I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 128 be dispensed with and the journal show that it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Hyder is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good senators, House Bill 128 brings in compliance of operating companies like canal companies with the irrigation district liens, which are 3 years as opposed to 2. By allowing 3 years instead of 2 years, canal companies will have a better opportunity to work with landowners to address delinquent assessments. Without this legislation, more foreclosures on canal company liens are likely, especially in urban areas. This legislation only applies to Carry Act canal companies and will not impact other canal or ditch companies. This legislation will correct an inconsistency in the current law and is supported by the Idaho water users and the food producers of Idaho. I urge your passage of House Bill 128. With that, Mr. President, the debate is open.
Further debate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Hyder is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. The debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so House Bill 128 passed the Senate. Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Aye. Baer. Aye. Bach. Brackett. Aye. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Aye. Davis. Durst? Fulcher? Getty? Guthrie? Hagedorn? Hyder? Hill? Johnson? Keough? Lacey? Blakey? Lodge? Martin? McKenzie? Mortimer? Nonini? Nuxel? Patrick? Pierce? Rice? Schmidt? Sitaway? Stennett? Thane? Tippett? Vick? Work? Winder? Bach? Buckner-Webb? Fulcher? Getty? Lakey? Stennett?
Roll call shows 32 ayes, 1 nay, 2 absent, excused. Majority haven't voted in the affirmative. House Bill 128 passed the Senate. The corrections title, hearing none, the title is approved. House Bill 128 will be returned to the House. Senate now is for final consideration. House Bill 129. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 129 by Resources and Conservation Committee, an act relating to irrigation districts to revise the interest rate on delinquent assessments relating to
Mr. President.
Senator Cameron.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Bill 129 be dispensed with. Journal show it's been read at length, section by section, is now properly before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objections, Senator Cameron is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and Senators, this bill is really almost a cleanup bill. It maybe would go a little bit further than that, but it's intended to do away with an inconsistency in Idaho code as to what kind of interest rate can be charged when a person is delinquent in their assessment on an irrigation district. The bill that's before you changes it to make it 1% per month or 12% per year. This bill is supported by the Idaho Water Users Association and the food producers. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Cameron is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. This makes it in compliance with all the other provisions, or most of the other provisions. With that, Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, so House Bill 129 passed Senate. Secretary will call the roll.
Bear? Bayer? Bach? Brackett? Buckner-Webb? Cameron? Davis? Durst? Fulcher? Getty? Guthrie? Hagedorn? Hyder? Hill? Johnson? Keough? Lacey? Lakey? Lodge? Martin? McKenzie? Mortimer? Nonini? Nuxel? Patrick? Pierce? Rice? Schmidt? Sitaway? Stennett? Thane? Tippett? Vick? Work? Winder? Bach? Buckner-Webb? Fulcher? Getty? Johnson? Lakey? McKenzie? Pierce? Rice? Thane? Vick? Winder?
Senator Work.
Mr. President, could you change my vote to no, please?
Senator Work will be recorded as voting no. Roll call shows 25 ayes, 8 nays, 2 absent, excused. Majority haven't voted in the affirmative. House Bill 129 has passed the Senate. Other corrections title. Hearing none, the title is approved, and House Bill 129 will be returned to the House. So now is for final consideration. House Bill 132. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 132 by Resources and Conservation Committee, an act relating to forest and range fire, providing legislative intent to revise provisions relating to trespass.
Mr. President.
Senator Pierce.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 132 be dispensed with, and the Journal has been read the third time, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objections, Senator Pierce is recognized to open debate.
Good Senators, if you look at our count a little bit, we got a little out of order. We have fires, and then we have water, and now we're having fires again. And if you notice on down a bill or two later, we'll have the pharmacy for headaches, I guess. But House Bill 132 addresses forest fires and rangeland fires. Recently, the federal government brought a lawsuit in California against a forest products company for the spread of a forest fire. Under federal common law, when a forest fire occurs on federal land, state law is used unless it's hostile to federal public policy. In this case, in California, the federal government used California law to claim, number one, the value of the lost timber, number two, restoration costs, number three, fire suppression, number four, intangible environmental damages, and number five, the doubling of all those damages under California fire trespass statute. Now, you can imagine if this is one of our people going through this experience, it'd break them, and it will. This company in California did finally settle, but for an enormous amount, and it was a horrible experience. It's not exceptional. There's many more cases pending now before the Ninth Circuit to, again, against railroads, against the county water district, against utilities, contractors, and even the state of California for range and forest fires. And so this bill is an answer to it. Let's go through. This bill simply states that when a forest or range fire occurs, damages are limited to actual and tangible loss, not intangible environmental damages, which are speculative. So Section 1 of the bill simply goes through the legislative intent. Section 2 codifies Idaho law that willful and intentional acts of lighting fires, in a sense, are required for treble damages. So people that intentionally do it. Number 3, Section 3 spells out what damages are allowed under a regular fire. That forest and range fires, the real and property damage will only be the reasonable cost for controlling the fire, economic damages, and one, either the fair market value of the real and personal property damage or the actual and tangible restoration costs as a result of the forest or range fire. And what this does is it protects, somebody driving through, whether it's a hunter, whether it's a rancher, whether it's a camper, whether it's a utility, one of our railroads that cause a fire. This is only protection for our people. Section 4 is a severability clause, and Section 5 is an emergency clause. This bill is supported by the Idaho Forest Group, Stinson's Lumber Company, Bennett Lumber Company, other members of the forest industry, the Idaho Farm Bureau, Idaho Food Producers, Idaho Consumer-Owned Utilities, Idaho Cattlemen's, and the Idaho Wool Growers, and IACI as well. This is a good bill. It puts a good law in place in Idaho, and I hope for your aye vote. Debate is open.
For the debate, Senator Keogh.
Mr. President, under pursuant to Rule 39H, I disclose that I have a possible conflict of interest.
So recorded in the Journal, Senator. Further debate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Pierce is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. The question is, so House Bill 132 passes the Senate. The Secretary will call the roll.
Baer? Bayer? Bach? Brackett? Buckner-Webb? Cameron? Davis? Durst? Fulcher? Getty? Guthrie? Hagedorn? Hyder? Hill? Johnson? Keogh? Lacey? Lakey? Lodge? Martin? McKenzie? Mortimer? Nonini? Nuxel? Patrick? Pierce? Rice? Schmidt? Sidaway? Stennett? Thane? Tippett? Fick? Work? Winder? Buckner-Webb? Durst? Getty?
Mr. President.
Senator Durst?
Mr. President, may I change my vote from no to yes?
Senator Durst will be recorded as voting aye. Roll call shows 31 ayes, 2 nays, 2 absent excused, majority having voted in the affirmative. House Bill 132 is passed the Senate of the correction title. Hearing none, the title is approved. House Bill 132 will be returned to the House. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on third reading be reordered, placing Senate bills at the top, followed by House bills.
Hearing no objection, the third reading calendar will be so reorganized. Senator Davis.
Ask unanimous consent in advance of the 15th order of business.
Without objection, Senate advance 15th order of business, miscellaneous business and adjournment. Senate's at the 15th order of business.
Personal privilege.
You have the floor.
Mr. President, Senators, as you know, today is the targeted transmittal date on Senate bills, and we have successfully cleaned out those Senate bills in the 13th order of business. We do have a little still to go, as you know, throughout the remainder of the year. I would remind you that tomorrow afternoon and Thursday afternoon, we'd ask you to save some time from 4:30 to 6 for floor work. We are going to soon adjourn till the hour of 10 a.m. tomorrow. Prior to adjournment, I ask if there are brief introductions or announcements.
Announcements.
Mr. President.
Senator Hyder.
Mr. President, Jan and I have with us today in the gallery a dear friend, Karen Cotter from Nampa. We're certainly happy to have her here today, and we should make her welcome. Thank you.
Further announcements. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is our intent to go into the 14th order of business tomorrow. So just a reminder, if you have amendments for the calendar, you need to have them to the Secretary by 4 p.m. today. And, Mr. President, for introduction.
You have the floor.
I don't get a chance to do this very often, but my wife, Diane, is in the gallery with us today. I think this is the first time I've had a chance to introduce her. So, Diane, would you stand and be recognized by the Senate?
Further announcements. Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, just so you know, on your chair out on the steps of the Capitol, there will be a program out there, so you don't need to carry that larger one with you. Also, if you have spouses that will be attending, there's seating arranged for them. They just need to identify themselves as your spouse. And I just pulled up the weather, and for your information, it is currently 31 degrees out there. You may want to take your coat. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Senators, for your information, the majority leader had to put his glasses on to see what I'm wearing. This is a bolo tie. It's not a Wayne Hoffman bolo tie, but it's a bolo tie that I wore 50 years ago today. And I hope that someday one of our grandkids, I don't think I'll be here for the bicentennial, but I hope that one of my grandkids gets to wear it 50 years from today. So, Senator Davis.
Well, Mr. President, in Idaho Falls, we play golf at 31 degrees. It is balmy outside. Second, I noticed that both Diane and Judy gave the same look to their husbands at introduction. I move that the Senate adjourn till the hour of 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Senator Stinnett.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. The Senate adjourned till 10 a.m. tomorrow. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.